The Summer Olympics has finally kicked off in Tokyo after being postponed for a year. And just a couple of hours ago, Chinese shooter Yang Qian claimed this year's first gold medal with a victory in the women's 10-meter air rifle final. Adam Hunt joins us now from the host city with more. Hello, Adam. So tell us about day one of the Games.
Yes, as you said, it's been a great start to the Olympics for China, winning the first gold medal to be awarded. Yang Qian winning the women's 10-meter air rifle, but it's a really busy day. This is the one where the Olympics starts in earnest, because we've seen a few days of competition before the opening ceremony last night, but today is a very busy one. 23 events in total and 11 sets of medals will be handed out. Some of the highlights, we're looking forward to watching the cycling, which has already begun, the road race, and also the swimming later, which is always an entertaining event. We'll see Novak Djokovic take to the court. He's the final match on the main arena against Hugo Dellien. He's hoping to make history to become the first man to ever win the Golden Slam. So that's all 4 Grand Slams in a year plus the Olympics. He's won 3 of those Grand Slams, having won Wimbledon a couple of weeks ago, so he's got to win gold here and then win the US Open in about a month's time as well. The only person who's ever done that before on the men's or the ladies side is, of course, the German star Steffi Graf a few years ago. There is a relatively heartbreaking element, though, to the sport's beginning, because we're starting to see athletes who've tested positive for COVID on arrival here in Tokyo have to pull out of their respective events. Just to give you one example, Chile's Taekwondo star Fernanda Aguirre should have been competing today, but sadly she was unable to, having tested positive on arrival in the Japanese capital, and she posted this on Twitter a couple of days ago to say she was heartbroken and very sad to not be able to live her dream. So for every smile and moment of happiness at athletes competing here at the Games, there's also heartbreak too.
Well, Adam, that's something that was kind of reflected in the opening ceremony last night, wasn't it? I mean, it was no doubt subdued, but did it still manage to dazzle? What's been the local reaction?
Yes, as you mentioned there, it was a much more reflective and somber opening ceremony compared to previous that we've seen at Olympic Games, and it reflected the times we're living in at the moment. The real sense of just how small it was given by the fact that this stadium here behind me, the capacity is around 65,000, but less than 1,000 people were inside to actually watch the opening ceremony. Many of those were athletes, but only about half the number we've seen previously. There were some world leaders and delegates present as well. The French President Emmanuel Macron was there alongside the Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga. First Lady Jill Biden too, she was there, but a much reduced guest list in terms of world leaders and delegates. And the athletes, as we saw, were socially distanced. They were wearing masks. And it all ended with Naomi Osaka, the Japanese tennis star, lighting the flame. So that was the opening ceremony last night. But just outside on the road that runs parallel to the stadium here behind me, we could barely hear the fireworks because of all of the protests that were taking place. Huge crowds gathering. They were having to be kept calm by the police, shouting no to the Olympics. And I think that was a reflection of just how frustrated the locals are. Many of the locals, we're being told around 60 to 70% of people here in Tokyo do not support the Games, and they still want it to be cancelled. They feel it's irresponsible given the rising number of COVID cases both within the Olympic bubble but also in the wider population as well, the kind of numbers we were seeing perhaps 6 months ago in mid-January. So it's going to be a challenge for the organisers to try to get people to focus on the sport and all of the wonderful things that happen to do with that, the gold medals being awarded and all of the great stories that always happen at the Olympics, but also that bubbling undercurrent of COVID and the restrictions that they bring.
Adam, appreciate the update. Thank you, Adam Hunt, speaking to us from Tokyo.